First of all, how did we start making images? The only thing that's preserved is things in caves. Why did we start project onto something, like why? You can just look at these horses. Why paint them? What's the desire all the way to this very moment where everybody is just in an image in some way, But I think they serve the collective identity, the story. Let's say you go to the Sistine Chapel, it's all there and you are like inside this cube basically. So the screens could be to the inside and you stand there in the middle. There you see, then everything is explained to you. This is this, this is that, that's the good thing, the bad thing, so you have the whole story. So these images serve also a story, but they're actually made by people that are employed by a company that is hired by a company that sells something usually through another company in your local supermarket, for example, or Amazon, that you then have. So there is nobody really in charge of the story.
I worked with Urs since 2003, actually. I was there working in a gallery as a art handler, preparator. And we made all these shows, like every 6 weeks, new shows, and with all these different kinds of artists represented by the gallery. Urs was one of them. Super interesting because it was always like very unpredictable and kind of like he was getting to the limit of what was possible in the gallery. So I started to jump in, like organize these special needs in the gallery to make it happen. You have a certain time, you have a budget, but you need to find that out. How is it possible to get there, to make this happen? Especially in the beginning, it's like very exciting because you turn the ideas in the head, you have to solve like basic problems, like how do I contact a company which is very, very specialized in something which has nothing to do with contemporary art, and kind of convince them that it's something they could also profit from because they learn, or they can maybe even bring their product in a different direction. I would say I'm a project manager for special needs. My job contains like talking to people as artists, but also people with a lot of knowledge in their field, mostly like from the industrial point of view. My job, I would describe it as bringing together these two worlds. So you have to go freestyle a bit, which is a hard thing if you work with computers, because everything is like you have to define at some point. So it's always like something between having enough freedom for the artist to also change the direction during the process and getting as fast as possible some visual output so you can actually talk about it. The creativity in the process of the people who actually are doing is a technical creativity. It's like how you get there, what tools do you need to get there, and how do they have to sometimes also trick a little bit existing classic ways to get there. So you take some risks as well. You can take this risk because it's contemporary art. It's not a product, it stands for itself.
So this is the image now that's not a Sistine Chapel, where you have this image that makes sense. This is an image that makes no sense collectively. But subconsciously, we are united by this experience. We have this experience of advertisement, which is I think a giant experiment on humanity, because it's ephemeral. It's meant to be present and then disappear. It's a very strange story. It doesn't hold you, it kind of repulses you, You're on the outside, you're not on the inside. The idea of advertisement imagery, or like a lot of imagery now that you basically consume, you're not meant to partake in the image. You consume an image, So you're not on the inside. It's not yours, it's wants you.
The idea of Urs is very clear. He has always a very, very precise idea how this needs to be in the end. Urs made this animation with a small video with the work of the cube and with the motions of the videos on top of it. On this video you saw like how all these human motions of like swiping and different videos like moving, but of course it was just a 2 minutes video. The background is more a conceptual idea that the videos is generated endlessly, forever, always changing, no repetition in the precise motion which you see. Of course, with repetition maybe of the motif or certain moods or vibes, but like still ongoing. So I would say in technology it's important that they are not just doing work you ask them to do, but that they also involve kind of in the idea, because it's like a conceptual work, right? But the concept is like very much made in how the software is actually working on it. And this means for the software engineers, they have to like build in these systems that you can actually process all this data, because it's a lot of data. It's a lot of organizing in the background with servers and stuff, and to generate these videos, render these videos constantly.
They start with the birth of television, so around 1950, and it goes all the way through social media, like for now, because now everything is multi-screen or TikTok or whatever, like you have it on that screen, this screen. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, now you sell through people that supposedly are like you. In some way, I understand it more as a visual essay, more so than a artwork. There's nothing personal in it, except for my curiosity. So in that, a lot of the combination associations, they're all generated by technology. I mean, the way we use large language models for the finding search terms, we collect and scrape all these commercials since 2 years now, and we build like a huge collection, and it keeps growing. We have web scrapers that find more and categorize it and cut it and prep it. And it will just keep growing, and we will get smarter and smarter in combining them. Next thing we work on is on different motion patterns that we hand that over to an AI too. Just so there is an infinite variety.
I would say the biggest surprise we had was when we started to build in AI prompt from whatever we choose from, making the combination of the videos. Instead of having labels like tags you have in photos, like this is a chair, this is a table, we can now build in these prompts like LA arrival mood or a galaxy far, far away. And it's absolutely surprising how it can figure out from one picture what actually the story behind that clip is. And the combination, seeing it running in together, the different videos, is absolutely surprising for us. It was amazing how emotional these outcomes could be, actually.
You have hundreds of thousands of clips consisting of sequences of images. And the way they're composed, basically there is no memory when you look at this. This integrates as you watch it. And there is continuously a new thing that makes whatever you just saw disintegrate. So there is hardly even a memory I have of anything I ever saw on here. So it is actually not an image. It's kind of like an anti-image. It's never a thing. It's always a thing and never anything. I don't even see it as negative or critical. I'm just curious of this strange imagery we all share.
Urs was from the beginning, he was thinking about this physical relationship between swiping through our phones or iPads and having like these beautiful motions, starting with the iPod, where he had this motion of like going through a record list, for example. And the same with the pictures. They have kind of like a gravity, even though they don't need to have this, right? It's not a physical object. But you add this gravity to it and they start to have a relation to actually the physical world, right?
The form is just there to occupy space, occupies a space somewhere in this world, a physical thing. It could be on a flat surface, on a wall, but I like that it occupies space, physical space. And I do like that you can never see what's going on the other side. You will only be able to see it from one angle or another angle, but never from all angles. I mean, I want it to be big because I want it to be a physical experience, not just like you look at something. It's bigger than you and it's kind of all immersive if you're close to it. In this way, I wanted it to be bigger than a human. So because it's not a mirror or a portrait, this thing I wanted it to be more like a monument. One funny one is in the beginning of 2001 when this monolith comes and just this kind of rationale or whatever lands there and like what to do with that. And that you can say is Stonehenge, you can say is whatever, there's all kinds of things, just this almost primitive geometric form that then should mark something, like a tombstone. That's the ultimate sculpture, is a tombstone. You know, it's like demarks somebody's life. So in this way, it's not somebody. I want it to be like this thing that denotes something collective.